Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about version control in GitHub as a part of our Unit 1.3. My name is Mar, and I'm going to be the TA teaching you today. All right, to kind of start off, we're going to first talk about the difference between Git and GitHub. So Git is a version control system. We'll go into more about what version control means, but right now, you just need to know that Git is just something that can be utilized by different tools or even your own computer to help keep track of different versions or changes you've made. Whereas GitHub will actually use Git for version control, and it's also a place that you can put your code online, and it helps encourage some collaboration. But again, what is version control? Version control is essentially a way to track what's going on without renaming the file. So if you look in the bottom left right here, this little finals comic, you'll see that, if you've ever had to save multiple copies, multiple drafts of something, you'll save a Word doc and you'll call it final. And then you'll call it final one, and then final two, final three, etc., etc. Or first draft, second draft, third draft, you get it. Um, and so, like, if you look right here, it's a great way, version control is a great way where you can see the different changes you've made at different stages. So here's like the original doc, here's your first edit, and then here's your second edit. And you can go back and see any one of these at any time. Another thing that you can do is you can work in parallel. Okay, so if you look here, you have one original doc, and then you have one person making edits in red and one person making edits in blue. You can make copies of the same file and do your own edit. And then, as you can see on the bottom graphic, those two edits can come together. So that final doc right here is a combination of both people's edits. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about GitHub. If you see this mascot everywhere, this is just called Octocat. It's the official mascot of GitHub. Okay, so if you guys don't already have a GitHub account, make sure to sign up for one right now, and this is what your homepage will look like. I'm going to go over a little bit of the terminology that you'll see on the first page. If you look up here, you'll see pull requests. Pull requests are basically a way for you to ask to make changes to the code by submitting your own code. Issues right here is a way for you to submit a bug, a feature improvement, etc., without actually having the code for it. You're just bringing up the issue. If you go into the right over here, you'll see that this is where you can create a project, i.e. if you want to create like an organization, a gist is something, it's essentially like it can be used for a wiki, a lot of different uses if you want to look more into that, or a repository, which we'll be focusing on today. And if for any reason you need to change your email, password, etc., or just any account settings, you just click on your profile picture right there. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about a repository. So a repository is a folder for your code. So if you go ahead and go to that plus we were talking about earlier, you're going to click New Repository right here. It should be the first option. And then you're going to get this view on the right side. Okay, you should see, create a new repository. You'll see the owner name right here, which should be your username. And you'll see all this information here. Go ahead and fill it out just like this. Make sure you can have whatever repository name you want, but it does have to be unique to your account. Since I don't have a repository named first repo, mine is going to be named first repo. After that, you can either do public or private, doesn't matter, and then go ahead and add a README file. This is just a file that, as you see on the right, after you click Create Repository, you'll see this view. The great thing about a README file is it kind of gives further instructions for your GitHub repo. And this is what we're going to mainly be editing today. Okay, so again, if you don't have GitHub Desktop, make sure you go ahead and download it now because we'll be using it for the rest of the lecture. So we're going to go ahead and click the second button, Clone a Repository from the Internet. And once we've cloned it, we're going to go ahead, or once we click Clone, we're going to go ahead and select our repo. You can go ahead and type it and filter your repositories, and it should pop up. What I'm also going to do on this left-hand side is I'm going to have the CLI command line interface lines that you could type into like your terminal, git bash, etc., those things, just to kind of expose you to them, but I won't be going too in depth. I will be posting a resource if you want to look into it a little bit further. And so, a little bit about cloning. What cloning means is we're essentially taking a copy from the computer, a copy online from GitHub, and we're cloning it onto our own local computer. We're bringing it to our own local computer. This allows us to kind of have two different places to talk to each other. So when you git clone, you're not just saving your code, you're saving a secret file called Git that stores all the information and even knows where on GitHub you have the code stored. So that way, if you make local changes on your computer, you can go ahead and push them up all the way onto GitHub. All right, so after we change, we're going to go ahead and open this in Visual Studio Code. There's a gray button right in the middle of GitHub Desktop. Okay, and once we have Visual Studio Code up, I want you to go ahead and type this right here. Just any change, I just wrote Introduction to Tools of the Trade. My Visual Studio Code might look a little different from yours. That is a-okay. I just have a lot of extensions downloaded, so you won't need those for this class, but if you want to look more into that, we'll also have a guide on that as well. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to add our files. Adding just gives you a way to kind of choose what changes you want to commit, choose what changes you want to take a snapshot of. So in order to add on Git, what you're going to do for GitHub Desktop is you're going to go ahead and just check that box right there, okay? Just go ahead and check that box, and that's you adding. I just want to state kind of as a sidebar, you don't have to add all your files each time. You can pick and choose, so that way maybe you want to separate your files into two different commits or things like that. Okay, so once you've added it, what you can go ahead and do is you can commit, you can take a snapshot of your code. This is where you're saying like, hey, this section right here, I want history of what my code looks like right here. So now what you'll see is I've gone ahead and added a name. I just said added course name to readme.md. You want to make sure that your commit messages are descriptive of what you just did. So that way when you look back in your history, you know what each commit is. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and just commit to main. Okay, now that we've gone ahead and committed, you'll see that there's no local changes. So it's saying like, hey, like you've saved everything you needed on your local computer to Git. But now it's not necessarily saved onto GitHub. So what we'll have to do is push them. So we'll kind of imagine it like, if you have your code right in front of you at your desk and you have your code right in front of you, but on the other side of the desk is GitHub. You just want to physically take it and push. Well, that's what we're going to go ahead and do right now. Thankfully, GitHub Desktop has a nifty little button right here. It just says push origin. All you have to do is go ahead and click that. I also want to say that just like you don't have to add everything for each commit, you don't have to push after each commit. It's great if you want to, push all your commits so that way people can stay up to date with your code. But if you're working by yourself, you can save a bunch of it on your local computers, and you can also work offline and go ahead and just commit and commit and commit. And then once you get connected to internet, you can go ahead and push. Okay, so now we kind of went over the flow of what happens if we change code on our computer and we want it to go onto GitHub. Now let's talk a little bit about what if we want to change the code on GitHub and then save it onto our local computer. So go ahead and go back to GitHub, and you're going to notice with like you're going to go to the README. Chances are you'll probably have like that line right here. I just forgot to take a screenshot at the right time. And then you're going to go ahead and press that button. That pencil up above is just your edit button. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and type your edits. I just added a hyphen and said my favorite class. And then you can go ahead and add your message and press commit changes. I just said add a description to readme.md. Okay, so now you should be able to see your changes. And if you notice, this is also a commit as well. So on GitHub, it says your latest commit, and it gives like, the string of like letter and numbers, and it says when it happened. And so now we have this on GitHub, but let's go ahead and go back to GitHub Desktop. So just like we pushed from our local computer to GitHub, we're gonna go ahead and pull. So like back to the same metaphor, you have all your code like on your desk, on the other side of the desk is GitHub. What you're going to go ahead and do is take that code from GitHub and pull it closer to you. When you open GitHub Desktop, it may take a sec to fetch origin. That's just refreshing to see what's up on GitHub. But then you'll see this button right here that'll say pull origin. It'll tell you how many new commits you have, which are just one for us. And then we're going to go ahead and just click pull origin. Once we click pull, it'll load for a little bit, and then we'll see this README right here. It's all updated. But now let's talk really quick about what if we want to collaborate with someone else. This kind of leads more into our activity for today. So we're going to talk about forking a repo. Forking repo is just a way for you to get your own copy of the code base that is, still connected to that original code, but gives you all the freedom to do whatever you would like. So it's super great when you want to change a piece of code, so you can submit a pull request. Remember, a pull request is a way of asking for code changes with the code that you've written yourself. It's a great way to submit a pull request to something that you don't have contributor access to, which is going to be just like our assignment today. And so if you look on the graphic on the right side, you'll see that, github.com, that's going to have it's all on github.com. And you're going to have that central repository, that central place for the files to be held. And then once you fork it, you'll have your own copy right there, but there's still like that little bit of connect there. So now we're going to go into how we can how we can kind of work through our assignment for this week, and that will be in the next video, so make sure you check it out. Hey, thanks!